In the heart of the Middle East, where the sands of time whisper ancient secrets, the Hebrew Bible stands as a beacon of moral and spiritual guidance. Yet, this beacon is not as straightforward as it might seem. The wisdom and laws within its pages are deeply rooted in the life and institutions of ancient Israel, making them a challenging read for the modern soul. This video delves into the complexities of prophecy in the Hebrew Bible, exploring how these ancient texts have shaped and continue to shape religious thought and practice, particularly within Christianity and Judaism. Prophecy in the Hebrew Bible is not just a collection of predictions about the future. Instead, it is a tapestry of social commentary, moral exhortation, and divine revelation, woven through the tumultuous history of ancient Israel. The prophets, often seen as messengers of God, were not just fortune tellers but social critics who dared to speak truth to power. Their messages were not always welcome, and their paths were fraught with danger. Yet, their words have endured, influencing religious and ethical discourse for millennia. One of the most striking aspects of the prophetic books is their cryptic nature. Unlike the straightforward narratives of the historical books or the practical wisdom found in Proverbs, the prophets often spoke in riddles and symbolic language. This was not merely a stylistic choice, but a deliberate method to convey deeper truths that required reflection and interpretation. For example, Isaiah's famous prophecy about the birth of a child who would be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 is not a simple prediction, but a profound statement about the nature of divine intervention and the hope it brings. The cryptic nature of prophecy was particularly evident in the way these texts were used by later communities. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for instance, reveal a community that saw their own experiences as the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. They interpreted the words of the prophets through a lens that made them relevant to their specific historical context. Similarly, early Christians found in the Hebrew prophets the promise of a Messiah, a Savior who would bring about a new era of peace and justice. The Gospel of Matthew, for example, frequently cites prophetic passages to show how Jesus fulfilled these ancient predictions. However, the complexity of the prophetic books also makes them challenging for modern readers. The books of the prophets are not neatly organized or easy to follow. They often contain disjointed oracles, assembled by later editors who may not have fully understood the original context or sequence of events. For instance, the book of Isaiah, while rich in imagery and powerful in message, is a patchwork of different periods and themes. This can make it difficult to discern the original intent of the prophet or the historical circumstances that shaped his words. Despite these challenges, the prophet's messages remain relevant today. They speak to the timeless issues of social justice, moral integrity, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. The prophets' calls for ethical living and their warnings against social injustice resonate in a world still grappling with issues of inequality and oppression. For example, the prophet Amos, who lived in the 8th century BCE, denounced the rich for exploiting the poor and the powerful for perverting justice. His words, For 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not revoke the punishment. Amos chapter 2, verses 6, are a powerful reminder that the abuse of power has consequences. The prophets also challenge us to think critically about our own actions and the state of our societies. In a world where political and economic systems often seem broken, the prophetic voice calls for a return to fundamental moral principles. The prophet Micah, for instance, declared, "He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God?" Micah chapter 6, verses 8. This message of justice, kindness, and humility remains a cornerstone of ethical living, regardless of one's religious or cultural background. Moreover, the prophets' role as social critics extends beyond the bounds of ancient Israel. Their messages have influenced not only religious thought, but also political and social movements. The civil rights movement in the United States, for example, drew heavily on the prophetic tradition, using the words of the prophets to advocate for racial equality and social justice. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. echoed the prophets' calls for a society where the marginalized are uplifted and the powerful are held accountable. In conclusion, the prophetic books of the Hebrew Bible are a complex but profoundly relevant part of the religious and ethical heritage of humanity. They challenge us to live with integrity, to seek justice, and to remain vigilant against the forces of oppression. While the prophets' words may be cryptic and their books difficult to navigate, their messages continue to inspire and guide those who seek a deeper understanding of the moral and spiritual dimensions of life. The prophets remind us that the quest for a just and compassionate world is a timeless and ongoing endeavor.